Hello, beautiful. Today we are having a discussion about sex with the one and only Alyssa Lubitschek. You may remember her from her time on Netflix's The Circle with a vulva pillow, and or maybe you already follow her on social media. Alyssa is an intimacy educator and relationship coach. She also has her own podcast called Alyssa Explains It All, where she discusses dating, sex, and more. I also love how confident and empowering Alyssa is. She's the type of woman who lifts others up, and we need more of you, so thank you. I am so excited for our discussion today because I know I'm not the only one who has struggled a lot with their sex life due to so much shame and body image struggles. So, welcome, Alyssa, to your Body is Not the Problem podcast, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. That was such a lovely intro. That was so nice.
It's easy when you're a lovely person.
Oh, stop it, Lynn. Stop it.
So, to start, can you tell us more about your body image journey and maybe how you've noticed it impact your relationship with sex?
Totally. I was excited to talk about body image because I have had a bit of a journey. I grew up in like a very normal house, but my mom is very much like a 90s, 80s mom where like I don't know if you know about like there was the cabbage diet. There was like all of these like really bizarre like cottage cheese diet, which now I think TikTok is halfway there, but um uh and so she was always on like some diet. She was like involved in Herbalife for a little while. Like she's always on a diet, she's always on a cleanse and like that sort of behavior. And so that's what I grew up with. And I also grew up in an environment where everyone was telling me I looked exactly like my mom. So over time, I'm putting two and two together and I'm like, oh, okay, if I look just like her and she's constantly feeling like she needs to lose weight, I've got to be in like a similar situation. And so through high school, especially, I had a hard time. I have like a pear-shaped body, which in the early 2000s, it was all about like balancing your frame. Like you wouldn't ever like emphasize that you have a butt or thighs or, it was all about like making sure that you looked balanced, I guess. Um and so like every magazine I would read, it was like, if you have a pear frame, then you should wear flare jeans, but that makes you look like wide all around. It was just a mess. So I had a really hard time in high school. And I was kind of on like the quieter side. And I think it was just like a lot of confidence issues. I found a little bit of more confidence though, as I got older and got into like the like emo and scene group of people. Cause once you're in like the alternative group of people, all alternatives are fine. And that was great. But then I went to fashion school and my college was a fashion business school. So I did a lot of like fashion internships and whatever. And that's a really tough industry too. And I finally got to a point sometime after I graduated college where I was like, this is exhausting. This is exhausting and I don't want to do this anymore. And I just like can't care. And I had spent some time actually being vegan and I loved it. It's just hard to maintain. So I try my best, but I can't do it 100% right now. And while I was doing that, I realized just how much better I felt when I was eating just like colorful vegetables and not counting a calorie and just eating whatever I wanted, but having it be like bright and colorful and nutrient dense foods. And that really like solidified it for me that I was like, I can't care about like what my shape looks like as much as I care about how I feel and making sure that I'm like getting everything balanced and whatever. And when that translates into your sex life, people feel really uncomfortable being naked. And we have so many messages that come through to us, particularly for women or femme presenting people, where we are told that we either have to be extremely sexy, like Victoria's Secret, like, why do you not know already? Like all of the sex tips and Cosmo and all this stuff. That, and also you're a slut if you're wearing something too skimpy. It's your fault if something happened because of the way that you were dressed, and you should be a virgin when you get married in some communities. And so there's a lot of conflicting messages, and it's really tough. Like it's definitely a big personal journey for sure, and everyone has to go through it in their own way. But I talk to people all the time who are just like not comfortable in their own skin, not comfortable being naked. And when you're having sex with somebody, you want to feel like the way your body looks, it should not really even be that much on your mind, because if that person is naked with you, they are not there. There's zero shot that they're like, you know what, that little flabby bit by her arm, they're not thinking that. And so it takes a lot of work to undo those internal voices, but it's so worth doing, because once you feel free in your body and you're able to sink into everything you're doing and everything that you're feeling, that's when all like the juicy good stuff happens.
Yeah, I was going to say that I feel like when you're too much in your head, you can't be in your body and you can't experience that pleasure when you're having sex or whatever you're doing. And it's just like, I think so many of us stop ourselves from even trying to be in our body because we don't already feel worthy of
Mm-hmm.
that pleasure. But I also thought it was interesting that you said that you recognized that you had a pear-shaped body and that society had told you like, oh, you had to do this and you had to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I think of like, oh, you have an apple shape or a pear shape or whatever shape, or you have a muffin top, it's like
Yeah.
pears are tasty.
Pears are, and I'm also simply not a fruit. Like, I'm just not. I'm a human being.
Exactly.
Like, why are you comparing me to fruits or a muffin? Leave me be. I'm not food. I am a human. And the way that you look, like, should be the least interesting thing about you, right? Like, there should be so much more to your life and your life's experiences. And like you were saying, when you can't be in your body because you're so in your head, you miss out on connecting with people on a sexual level, even in just like your friendships. I can't tell you how, and I know other people have experienced this before. I can't tell you how many times I feel like an event that I went to was stressful and not as fun for me because I was so concerned about the way that I looked and if my outfit was okay and if I looked fat in it, which, like, we tie so much moral value to these things, and there's no morality attached to your size.
Say it again, please.
I'm going to
That's so
tattoo it
good.
on my head.
Yeah, there is no morality associated with your size, your worthiness, your beauty. All of these things do not fluctuate with your weight and your size. You
Correct.
just are
Yeah.
beautiful. You just are worthy. And I think so many of us can relate to going to these different events. And you don't even remember what happened because you
Mhm.
were too in your head about, oh, my shorts are too tight.
Right.
Or maybe they can tell I'm at this size. And it's like, this is why we are here. We are going to help you so that you can improve your body image and your sex life.
Yes. Yes.
So I polled my audience as to whether or not they even wanted to improve their sex life
Mhm.
and have more sex, and around 60% responded 100% they want to, and the rest sort of wanted to.
Okay.
Currently, the vast majority of how often they are having sex is split between once a week and sporadically. I also asked what they thought was holding them back from having better and more sex, and the majority said exhaustion.
Mhm.
So I figured we could start there. What are some tips for improving your sex life when we feel like exhaustion is holding us back?
I will first say that all of those answers are completely normal and like pretty much what they always are. A lot of the time, it's people feeling very tired. Their days are already jam packed. The way that we, as like especially in the US, I'm sure in other countries too, but I live here, so it's really what I can speak to the most. We really want every moment of our life to be productive. And again, there's a lot of that moral value tied to productivity versus being able to rest. And now I think like we're getting like in our cultural view, we're getting closer to valuing rest. So that's great. So if anyone is, listening to this and they're like, that's totally me, that's completely fine. And most people are in that category. And this is going to seem like it's not going to be that fun. But what helps the most is scheduling. And that doesn't mean that you're saying, Wednesday at 6 o'clock, I'm just going to be naked and in the bed waiting for you, like ready for entry. That's not what I mean. I mean, like, if you make a goal of once a week or once every 2 weeks, you're going to have a night where you can indulge in just intimacy in general. So intimacy comes in a lot of forms. Like, it can come in the form of cuddling while you're watching a movie, or some people feel that intimacy from just their partner taking care of them and doing something nice for them. Like if you're sick and they bring you soup, or if you they're at a store and they see your favorite snack and they just bring it home. Like those are signs of validating your relationship and your care for the person, and they are signs of intimacy. And so if you can set aside some time to do those things throughout the week, great. If you limit it to one day every week or one every 2 weeks, that's when I think you're gonna you're gonna force all of that energy into a time frame that you both have agreed on, and it has to be, as much as you can, a no excuses situation. It can be a situation where if you're lucky enough to have a community of people around you that can watch your kids, watch your dog, or if you can like completely turn off work, and that's something that you are privileged enough to do on whatever day you decide on, absolutely do that, because this should be a priority. It's what helps maintain the closeness in your relationship. So any way that you can do scheduling is helpful. And also remember that intimacy comes in all types of forms, and it also is cumulative. So if you are throughout the week, you decide, I'm going to bring my partner a coffee because I know that they're tired today and they would really appreciate it. Best believe when that day that you've decided on, you're going to get a lot more out of that experience because you've dedicated some time and energy to committing yourself to that closeness.
I love that. I think the no excuses
Yeah.
is really important because it's so easy, especially when you are tired, to come up with those excuses of
Yeah.
like, oh, I have to get up early, or it's just been such a long day. And especially with like prioritizing it, and it's just like prioritizing a workout. It's prioritizing your work day. If it's important to you and you want to improve it, then I like how you said it's like it doesn't have to be you prioritizing it every single day like you do with work and an exercise,
Mhm.
but you can do it just once a week. And from my understanding, like I think the more you do it, the more you want to do it.
Correct. Yes. So if you feel like you're not really in the mood very much, and this is something that's feasible for you, if you can masturbate every day or every other day, if you start your day that way, you'll be floating on clouds. Like it gives you a hit of dopamine. It makes your whole body relax. It helps improve your body image and your reflection of yourself, because you're also doing a caretaking thing for yourself. There's tons of research to show that masturbating is really good for you, and it's good for your self-esteem. So I highly encourage that. And when you were talking about like setting aside like one day, like you can definitely do it. I was thinking like, to be clear, again, no one's expecting you to be like hanging from the ceiling and that's your one day. It could be like whatever works best for you. I am very big on commitment though. If you've committed to something, you've committed it to yourself and you've committed it to this other person. And if you are, if you take all of your commitments really seriously, I feel like that's when you really like this is something that I've been really thinking about and practicing in the past like year or two, and it's really interesting how much more I show up for myself and I show up for other people when I tell myself I've committed to this, so I either am going to do it or I'm going to find a way to do it, in a way that will work better if I have to, but I will do everything I can to show up for all of my commitments. And it, I kind of feel like there's a part of that that also raises your self-esteem in some way, because you've decided that this is the type of person that you are. You are a person who shows up. And whatever that means to you, that it feels good when you can check those things off your list and say, like, I've done everything or close to everything that I've committed to this week or today or whatever. That feels good. It's the same way that they say, if you're having a rough day, first thing you should do is make your bed. Mine is the first thing you should do is masturbate and then make your bed. But to each their own. but yeah, I think it's a similar thought process. And it also shows that you're valuing when other people are inviting you to things, when other people are asking for you, asking of you things like even just a phone call or stopping by for coffee. You're valuing that time. And you have no idea how important that is to people until you really, really stick to your commitments and see how much of a difference it makes in, a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's building trust in yourself that you're actually going to do the things you say you're going to do. Another thing I wanted to add into that, because when I was struggling with my body image so much, I was doing all of the diets, I was doing all of the crazy workouts, and those things were exhausting me.
Yeah.
The not having enough food in my stomach to actually get through a whole work day, of course, you're going to be exhausted after you're done work. And
Hmm.
then doing the workouts that weren't actually fueling me or energizing me, they were exhausting me. So I guess just also checking that if that maybe sounds like you, but yeah, put it in your calendar, agree on the time, commit to it. I think that
Yes.
is some really solid advice that we can all take and use and actually implement right now.
And
So,
one quick thing, because you were saying that you were going through a lot of dieting things, and I forgot to mention this before. Part of my whole like body image journey was letting go of dieting in general. And what helped me, I'm a big like show me the facts person. And when I've seen dietitians who are very different than nutritionists, if you can, dietitian over nutritionist any day. But they all will tell you that like three-fourths of diets fail. They almost always fail. So, like, and it's weird because the only times that I have, like, you know, lost any sort of weight, and I don't have a scale anymore, like, I'm not doing it. But anytime, yeah, it's not worth it. Um, and like, for what? Like, why do I need to know? Who cares? But, but anytime I've lost weight or felt like I've been like less bloated or like my jeans are fitting better or whatever, it's always when I'm not paying attention. It's always when I'm just like going about my day. And I think just like releasing some of that stress helps. And obviously not everybody is going to experience that. And I realize that there's some like privilege in whatever my body is naturally doing. But I feel like in general, if you're just giving yourself good, healthy foods, you're way more likely. I mean, the research shows you're way more likely to be at like a healthy and happy place.
100%. I'm actually doing a certification program right now.
Ooh.
And it is so interesting because it's including so much about stress and like our nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many studies and so many reasons why, when you do just focus on living your life and you're not so stressed about what you're eating, it makes sense, because when we are stressed, our body is in fight or flight. It's adding that cortisol, which
Mm-hmm.
apparently the fat around our stomach is more sensitive to cortisol.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you start stressing about your stomach and how it looks. It's like that's just adding more stress. And
Yeah.
the more you can relax into your body, the more you can relax into your life,
Mm-hmm.
the happier and healthier you will feel and be.
Right, right. And nothing will force you to learn how to like manage your stress, like stress induced IBS. That was a fun journey post the show coming out. I was like, let's not do this again. So yeah, keeping stress down is helpful across the board.
100%. So some other reasons that my audience shared for not having the sex life they want included feeling gross wanting sex, it's not enjoyable, fun, and that they don't feel comfortable in their own body.
Hmm. So the first thing that sticks out to me is feeling like it's not fun. And there is another I think she's a coach, sex coach. I don't think she's a therapist. Regardless, there was another person I was talking to in the field, and she used this analogy of fast food. When you go and eat fast food, it's delicious at the time, but you feel like crap after, and you're not gonna go back to that anytime soon for the most part. If you eat something that's really healthy and delicious, you're going to feel great after. That might be something that you revisit because it's given you a good experience from top to bottom. And so when you're looking at your sex life, are you having a fast food sex life or are you having a healthy balanced meal sex life? And if you're having a meal that's fast food or it's just like, I mean, I love fast food, so this is a hard analogy for me, but if if you're looking at a food that is like low quality, not great, why would you go back to that? Why would you crave that? And so it's important to also look at like if your desire feels low, is it because there's not much to desire? Because that's entirely possible. And there are ways to fix that. A lot of the time, what it comes down to is communication, which is another thing too, because one of the questions that I get the most is about desire discrepancies. So I want to be having sex 3 times a week, and my partner only wants to be having sex once, or vice versa. And what ends up being kind of funny is a lot of the time they haven't had an honest conversation with their partner yet. And the second that they do, they realize most of the time that they don't really want something too different from each other. And it's pretty easy to compromise and find a balance that works. But people are very nervous to start that conversation. I think partially just because sex is also emotional and people feel a little bit like there's some ego tied to it. And so it's tough to hear that like something you want something to change. But if you do it in a way, if you approach those types of conversations in a way where it's like, I love you, or whatever. I care about you, and I really want to work on our sex life and make it, ooh, just shaking my camera, and make it amazing. And so what would help me so much is if we could just have a conversation about what days work for you, or like how often you want to do this. You can even make it like kind of funny, like if you have to, whatever helps you to start that conversation. Once the ball starts rolling, if that other person cares about you, like truly cares about you, they will engage in that conversation and they will help you find a way to meet in the middle. So the first thing you should always do is try and open up that conversation. But if it is really more of like you don't want to see yourself naked, if you are really like you can't be in the moment because you're so in your head about how you're looking. I know a lot of the times it always makes me laugh when you watch like scenes from movies where they're like simulating sex in some way and they're showing the girl like laying on the ground, and I'm like, oh my god, it's just, oh, like I'm like, if Amanda Seyfried looks bad, I know that I don't look but 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 I always think like once everyone in the room is naked, no one's going anywhere. No one is going anywhere. And so it's really like it's in our own, it really is in our own heads. Like, cause it's not the your other partner thinking about you that way, because if they've already gotten naked with you, chances are they think you're hot. So there's no reason why, really, not that this is like going to turn it off in anybody's brain, but there's no reason why you should be over analyzing it as much. However, I know that we still do. So one of the things that has been really helpful for me and other people that I've worked with is standing in front of a mirror and starting with whatever you feel comfortable with, but the least amount of clothes that you possibly can, and point out only things that you like about yourself. And if you can do that, even if like right when you step out of the shower, if you can give yourself one thing that you like about yourself and you do that enough times, it's similar to the way that like affirmations work. You're telling yourself this really positive thing so much so that you will start to it'll start to sink in a little bit. And anytime I feel like my mind is wandering when I'm in any sort of like intimate situation, or even like just in general, like in my work day or whatever, um what's it called? Oh my God. Oh, meditation. Jesus. I kept thinking manifestation. I was like, that's not what I
Oh.
mean. Meditation is really helpful. I struggle a lot with like intrusive thoughts. They're like silly most of the time, but I can't get them out of my head and they're very annoying. And meditation has helped me a lot, because if you can and I'm not great at it, but it's helped enough where if I'm thinking about something and I know that I shouldn't be thinking that, I'm like, this is upsetting. I can more easily now like rein myself into what I was doing. So if you haven't done meditation, that's also very helpful. And the last tip that comes to mind is you should always try your best to focus on what your body is feeling. Like, really think about what you are physically feeling as much as you can. Like, that is one of the things that will help you orgasm quicker. It'll help you stay in the moment. just thinking about like the physical tissues, what you're feeling is really, really helpful. And ultimately, orgasms happen in your brain. They are a response to what's happening in the genital area or stimulation, but they happen because of something in your brain reacting. And so if you can get your brain in line with what's happening with your body, you will be much closer to a much more enjoyable experience.
I have found that it goes for actually multiple things, but if you are feeling insecure about your body for any reason, but like your partner finds you so attractive,
Yeah.
so many of us will want the lights off, will want clothes on when we're having sex. I have found wearing an eye mask is
Oh,
really, really beneficial because then you don't have to see anything. And then you also get to focus more on how you're feeling,
it's a great idea.
but they get to still enjoy the visual parts.
That's a great idea. And it also feels like you're doing something like kinky. Like you're, it feels like you're leveling up your sex life with which at that time you might be like, this is survival. But which is fine. If that's what helps you slowly start to train yourself to focus on what's happening, that's totally fine. And blindfolds are fun. And I love that idea. That's a great idea.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very helpful because I think like when you talked about the mirror work, I almost wonder is like which one is more uncomfortable for you, the mirror work or the having sex and like being vulnerable?
Mhm.
Because both of them can be so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so it's just, it takes time, it takes practice. It's almost like you have to commit and prioritize the mirror work also.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. For the not finding it fun, how
Mhm.
often do you find that's because the women aren't prioritizing having an orgasm during sex?
A lot of the time, because we're told that it takes too long and that it takes forever, it's impossible to do, which is not the case. The average time that it takes for a woman to orgasm is 20 minutes. So if you think that you're taking a long time, you're not. You're probably taking the normal amount of time. And what makes that take even longer is when you're telling yourself, this is taking forever and I'm cold. I want to put like, okay, whatever. So a lot of the time it's because people feel like they're not prioritizing, or they don't even realize that they're not prioritizing their own sexual pleasure. I think a lot of the times in like cisgender what's it called, heterosexual relationships, women feel like the perspective what sex is and when sex is completed is when the male ejaculates. That's what we mean when we say we had sex. Like it is P and V, and it's when the man finally comes. That's sex. And that's not really what it is. It can be, but there's so much more to explore, and we are not really taught about our bodies. I actually have my vulva pillow here. Um,
Yes.
and the reason that this was like so helpful is because this shows like all of the different like I don't there's so many people that I know who don't even know that the difference between a vulva and a vagina. And if you don't know, don't feel bad because we're not taught. So the difference is the vulva is all of the exterior part and the vagina is literally just the tube on the inside. That's it. And and if you don't know, your urethra and your vagina are different. They come out of different holes. And there's actually even some evidence that shows that the length between where your clitoris is and your vaginal opening could also contribute to how long it takes for you to orgasm. So, that's kind of interesting. But we're not taught about any of this. So if we don't know how to like play our own instruments, it's really hard to tell somebody else how to do it. And it's really hard to expect somebody who does not have the same anatomy to just like know off the top of, like, if we're not taught, they certainly aren't taught. And so they're just like kind of doing the best with what they can. And a lot of times the best that they can do is porn. And porn is not real. It's entertainment. It's not what we should be aspiring to in terms of like how quick everything is going to be, how great everything feels, because it's all made to be entertainment. So I think if you can prioritize your own pleasure enough to take some time and figure out what feels good to you. And then when you're in those sexual situations and you might be in like the foreplay space still, saying directing your partner in a positive way instead of saying like no, don't do that, be like, oh, I love when you XYZ, or that feels great, keep doing that, or it feels great when you do this and this. That helps so much more, because I promise you they also would like to know. They also want to know, because they don't, just the way like there's many women who don't themselves, and they also don't. And I would encourage you, as part of this like mirror exercise, that exercise is extremely hard for a lot of people, and I want to just like recognize and validate that. You can do it with like, you can do it fully clothed and be like, from my nose up, my forehead is smooth, whatever it is, and start really small, and then you can grow. But another part of this whole journey should also be taking a mirror, if you have not, and looking to see what your vulva looks like. Partially, I will say, if you need a reason that feels like very legit, you should also know what you look like normal, so that should anything happen, you should know what it looks like when something is abnormal. So that's my very legit reason that you should do that. But you should also be taking a look at your own tissues, because you again want to know what your own anatomy does. You want to know what it looks like. Like, I don't even know if women realize that when you get aroused, the sides of your vulva have like these big tubes in here, and they'll fill with blood. And the same way that a penis would fill with blood and ejaculate, this whole area gets really puffy, and the lips will also get like darker and kind of purpley, because there's more blood flow happening there. And part of it is also so that you can handle impact. So if there's more cushion happening there, it's more comfortable versus like bone. So that's part of it, but it's also just part of the arousal process. But you wouldn't know if you weren't looking, because no one's going to teach you, unless it's me. I'll teach you, but no.
Thank
It's
you. Yeah, no, I have a question about sex ed, because like I don't remember any of that from sex ed,
Mhm,
but I wanted to take a step back because you mentioned porn,
mhm,
and I feel like my opinion on this topic is pretty rare. But one of the reasons I felt so unworthy of like feeling good and like how I felt in my body was because way back in the day, I mean, from before we started dating to
yeah,
into our dating, Graham was watching a lot of porn, and this impacted our sex life so much because it left me feeling like my body wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough in bed. Like, if I was good enough, then he wouldn't want it, right? So I'm
mhm.
curious to know, I guess, how have you seen this affect other women in their sex life and like their self-esteem, I guess?
I will say that's also not an unusual perspective to have. A lot of people feel that way. A lot of women feel like porn is cheating, and it's like, you're not focusing on me in a sexual sense, you're focusing on another woman, etc.
I've never met
I
these women.
Oh my God, they're everywhere, babe. They're everywhere. And you are welcome to form your own opinion on that, because it's your own relationship, and the boundaries within your own relationship are what they are. And whatever makes you comfortable should be the priority within your relationship. Personally, I feel like porn is entertainment. There's stuff that's going to happen in porn that I sure as shit I'm not doing it. So if you need to live the fantasy without me present, fine. I don't care. Ultimately, like I said, it's really like, it's your own perspective, whatever you feel comfortable with. But porn is really meant to be more entertainment. It's also helpful when you're masturbating and you want to get across the finish line there. And it's totally normal for people to want to see. One thing that I think is also interesting is the perspective that a person is taking when they're watching it. And it's it's interesting too, because a lot of straight cisgender women will watch lesbian porn. And the reason is because both sides of the spectrum is showing a woman receiving pleasure either way. So that ends up feeling really erotic because you can place yourself in either way. You can place yourself in both places and you're still like living this fantasy. Um, I think for women who feel that way, I would encourage you to consider that porn is entertainment, and like the same way that um what's a good analogy for this?
I mean, I guess Graham doesn't come to me to make him laugh for like 2 hours at like a comedy show, right?
Right, exactly. Like you can absolutely have conversations with each other and they'll be funny and he could think you're the funniest person in the world, but if you still want to go see like a comedy show together or he wants to go by himself, it doesn't mean that he thinks you're less funny. And
Hmm.
we know that with something like if you're funny. But for some reason, when we talk about our sexuality, because I mean, it is so intimate, it's so private, it feels so private, we attach all this different meaning to it. But ultimately, it's like actually what one of the things that I always think of with this is when Twitch streaming first started happening. And I was working at an advertising agency and I was like, I was talking to somebody on the Twitch team. I was like, I can't understand why someone would watch someone else playing a game versus just playing the game themselves. I don't get it. And he was like, well, you can go play basketball and that's an experience you can have, but you could also still want to watch the NBA. And it's literally the same thing with porn. You can have sex in real life yourself, but you also could want to watch the NBA of sex. And as long as the behavior that carries out of that like experience of that person watching is not them asking you for things that you're not comfortable with or deprioritizing any intimacy with you as a result of them prioritizing that instead, there there shouldn't be like a blatant issue. But again, whatever works for you best within the boundaries of your relationship is what's best. And if this were something that were like a really pervasive issue, I would encourage you both to come together with a mediator of some kind. It could be a coach, it could be a therapist, it could be whatever, or even like a good friend, whoever, just so that you can communicate clearly on what does porn mean to you and why is it important that this is still something that you want to engage in, and why does it feel hurtful to you that this is something that I'm engaging in, and is there a way that I can make you feel more comfortable? Opening up those conversations is helpful because a lot of the time when you get to the root of what it is so much more simple than we're making it in our heads. We like to add like all of these other layers of the way that we feel on top of it, and when you boil it all down, it could be really simple. I wanted a little bit of entertainment and I don't, I want to be respectful of your time and your boundaries and your space. And I don't want to have to bother you constantly. And yours could be like, it makes me feel like I'm being measured up to this ridiculous standard. And so that conversation is helpful because then he can take more care in the way that he approaches something like that. And you can also be more mindful about what that actually means to him. It could put you at ease in a lot of ways. So opening up the conversation is helpful, but also whatever boundaries feel respectful to you are, it is what it is.
I think that was very well said. And
Thank
just the like how you put it of like you could play basketball but still want to go watch a basketball game is like
you.
when you say it like that, it feels so different.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was made to feel so crazy that I didn't want him watching porn. So to hear that I'm not alone, that's kind of nice. But I like how you also said it's like to each their own. What
Mhm.
works for you in your relationship, as long as it's not like negatively impacting your sex life or your relationship and
Mhm.
you both are happy, then
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, totally. And I know that there are couples who watch porn together too. And that's something that they could like, that's an erotic thing to do together. That's not necessarily having sex. It might lead to it, but it's kind of a fun, low energy way to engage in something together. So there's a whole spectrum of how people enjoy or don't enjoy porn. So the conversation is helpful.
For sure. So let's chat now about the sex education system from when we were in, I guess, like elementary or middle school.
Hmm.
So likely before 2010. I think ours was like 2007, maybe is when it started.
Yeah.
For myself, I honestly remember nothing aside from don't you dare do it. fear it at all costs, and sex is only for making babies.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I have learned about my body and sex, I have learned from my husband. And I asked my audience what they learned about sex growing up, and the majority answered it's only for after marriage and it's only for making babies. Multiple put that they learned absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's about making a guy feel good and to fear it at all costs. I am curious to hear what you remember from sex ed, if you went through it, and how you see it impact the sex lives of women today.
I love this question. I don't remember anything from sex ed either. I remember that there are STDs. I don't think I would have been able to tell you about any of them. Um, and it was always like, if you're gonna have sex, use a condom. I was lucky that it is different based on where you go to school, like country and state, especially in the US. It varies greatly. So I was lucky that I even got the if you're going to have sex, use a condom, because many people don't. And I bought this book, and it's a sexology book from, it was written in 1904. I posted about it on my Instagram if anyone wants to see it and you haven't seen it yet. And as I was reading it, I just could not, I knew that it would be like this, but it's crazy to see it because the person who wrote it is a quote gynecologist, which is psycho when you hear what he actually says. He says stuff like women are more likely or more prone to derangements because we produce more blood. I'm doing air quotes through all of this because none of that's true. And it is all from the perspective of women's bodies, and women's sexuality is for procreating. And that's all that it's for. And the way that the sex education system works now in the US is it is not mandated on a federal level. So states are able to teach however they would like to. Many states teach abstinence only, which means you are going to avoid your sex ed is you're going to avoid it at all costs. And when you're married, this is something you could talk to your partner about, which always makes me think like the poor boys that are in that classroom too are probably like, what? What am I going to do? What? Like, it's terrible. But yeah, that's very common in those same states. They have the highest rate of STDs and they have the highest rate of teenage pregnancy. So we know that abstinence only education does not work. The places that teach comprehensive sex ed are places that like, I mean, it's political because it's unfortunately it's part of like the way that the government works, but a lot of these like very, very liberal states. So like California has comprehensive sex ed, which means that they are teaching how to have safe sex, and they're teaching about all of the different parts of the body. And what we're trying to move towards, which especially in the past couple of years, the way that things have been going and like Roe v. Wade being overturned or whatever, I don't know that this is going to, this feels like a pipe dream for the sex ed community right now. But what we would like to see at some point is at least one day of your sex ed curriculum that's also dedicated to the pleasure portion of it. Because the way that we teach sex ed now is all preventative. It's all preventative of how to make sure you don't get sick, and preventative of, you know, pregnancies and things like that. And in reality, we know because there is research, years and years of research, that that doesn't work. And so you are so much more likely, and actually the places that have comprehensive sex ed or have sex ed that is not abstinence only, those are places where the teenagers are having sex later in life. So it's tough because I understand that, like, I don't have kids, but I can understand from a parent's perspective to some degree. I can sympathize that it's weird to have another random adult. Like I think about if I ever have kids, like sending kids to school sounds like a fucking nightmare. I'm scared. Like I'm scared. I'm scared to go into movie theaters. I'm scared. So I get it. I totally understand. And I understand how you would want to find like someone that you really, really trust to deliver this information, because in a school environment, you just never know. You never know what people are teaching. If you feel like that's something that you can do yourself, like you have enough of a good conversation going with your children, there are curriculums that are comprehensive sex ed curriculums you can download and teach yourself. I think Planned Parenthood has a bunch of them. In general, Planned Parenthood is a incredible resource. They have so many articles of information. So if you ever have questions about anything, you can send me a message, or you can go to plannedparenthood.org. So yeah, I understand why it's challenging. I also understand how, like, when people are making decisions on behalf of like an entire state, hearing that you're going to make a decision of like, all of the kids in this state are going to learn how a penis gets erect feels weird, because we are told over and over again that sex is inappropriate and it's inappropriate to have these conversations publicly. And that's just not the truth, because knowing how your body works is appropriate. That is an appropriate thing to know. It is appropriate to know the names of your body parts. There is also research that shows that when a child is taught the accurate names for their body parts versus your private parts or your cookie or whatever, like whatever words people use, I understand it's because they are uncomfortable, and it's hard to find a line of what's appropriate. I promise you, it is appropriate to give your kid exactly the actual name. Use the word vulva, use the word vagina, because the rate of sexual assault being reported drastically goes up when they know the names of their body parts. Because if you're just saying private part, it's so general, it's so unclear. A kid can sort of understand, but unless you're super, super clear, someone could have done something inappropriate to them. And in their mind, they're like, well, I don't know. Was that part of the private part area? I don't really know. Give them the right words. And all of the research points to comprehensive sex ed, using the real words, and doing it from a pleasure perspective being what works to keep people safe, have them be more thoughtful about the sex that they have and potentially have it later in life, and also prevent teenage pregnancies. So, it's very exhausting on my end, because I feel like I'm like, what, are we all looking at the same information? I don't think that we are.
I think I was in my 20s when I realized that like a vulva and a vagina are different.
I didn't even realize that until I was 25 or 26, and I started working with this sex coach, and I worked for her, and I had literally, this was all of this stuff about sex coaching and sex education was something that I started when I was 26, 27. And it was because I was an assistant to a sex coach who was, during the pandemic, bringing all of her in-person curriculum online. So I was moving it all over, and in the process I'm reading all of this stuff, and I'm sitting in on these like group classes. I'm like, holy crap, do people know about this? I was like, no, they don't. And they should. And it like changed my whole life and my whole world. And so it's totally plausible that you wouldn't have learned about this until like way later in life.
Yeah, the other thing that I was thinking about was how I learned about pleasure, because it was not from sex ed. And I remember once my mom tried to sit me down and have a talk, and I remember running away.
Oh
It's like,
no.
I don't even remember or know why I was already uncomfortable about that talk at that age, but we were watching Family Feud.
Oh no.
Yeah, and someone's answer was a guy pleasing himself, and I looked at my mom and my brother, and I was like, "What does that mean?" And they're like, "Nothing, like, you don't need to know," or something
Oh
like
my
that. And I was
God.
like,
How old were you? Do you know?
it would have been grade 6, grade 7, or grade 8
Okay.
because of which house we were living at.
Yeah.
But I remember I was like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna go Google it then. If you're
This
not
is
gonna
what
tell me."
happens. This is what happens. Then you Google, and then what did you find?
I honestly don't remember, but
I'm sure it was
probably
something.
porn.
I was going to say, I'm sure it was something pornographic.
Yeah.
This is what happens over and over and over again. And there's an account for a sex educator. She actually works, she lives in California, so she works in a system where she can teach pretty comprehensive sex ed. Her name is Mariah Caudillo, and her Instagram is Sex Ed Files. She will put, and this is common for sex ed teachers to do, but she will put a box in the front of her room and give the kids note cards every day. And every day they can submit a question if they want to. They don't have to, but if they want to, it's there. And she posts some of those note cards. They're all anonymous, but she posts all of them, not all of them, a lot of them on her Instagram. And you would be surprised to see the questions and things that these kids are thinking about in 4th grade, in 5th grade. They are already thinking about it. They are, like, regardless of whether you are in a Catholic school abstinence only program, they are thinking about it. So it makes so much more sense to me that you would give them the right information, because if you don't, what they're going to do is Google it, and they're going to find porn, and they're going to learn about sex and sexuality from porn. And that's not what that's there for. And it's also not always a healthy representation.
Yeah, I only remember like understanding, well, not even fully understanding, but knowing that like I had to like get on the pill and stuff because of my
Mhm.
friend. And then like I remember Graham saying that like we also had to use condoms, like we needed all of the things, like there was
Oh
so
yeah.
much fear for around everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was always learning things from everyone else. And I guess maybe that's also like feeling more comfortable to talk to a friend, but then it's like, where does she learn it? I don't know.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's tough because you want to find like a resource to lean on when you don't want to be the person to ask the question because you feel embarrassed, and it's hard to have those conversations. And so it's just so much easier if there was actually sex ed, so that the person in the front of the room can be the one to say penis out loud in a 5th grade classroom. And if the kids laugh, whatever, but at least they are learning and can retain more information because they are learning from, elementary school on. And obviously, to be clear, um, the curriculum for kids in like middle school or elementary school is not going to be how to have sex. It's not that. It'll change with the age range. So when you're in elementary school, it might just be you could be experiencing puberty in the next few years. And this is what that means. It could mean that maybe the girls in your class might start to grow hair in places that you haven't seen before. And that's totally normal and totally fine. Think of the amount of stress that we go through in all of these changes that would just be relieved in just like one extra course in school. But people are just really scared to commit to it, but they should.
100%. I was just thinking about like the amount of women I have talked to that at that age, we are so insecure about the
Hmm.
hair on our legs and the hair on our arms. That's a
It's
tongue
a
twister.
it's a core memory. It literally is.
Yeah, I remember begging my mom to let me shave, and I wasn't
Yep.
allowed to shave until I was like 13, I think. And
Mhm.
it's because I kept begging and kept begging. It's like, why are we so concerned about the hair on our legs at that age when it's like we should be concerned about playing hopscotch or
Mhm.
like gossiping about boys or something?
I know. Well, it's partially because, I mean, when you're in grade school, people always like to let other people. So if some people are shaving early, then the people who aren't are whatever. But we also are very conditioned to believe that smooth, skinny, tan bodies are the ones with the highest moral value. They are the ones that are worth the most. And so that's what we're always aspiring to be. And unfortunately, we start to take in those messages from a really young age where like it's crazy to be like 10 and think I need to shave my legs. It's weird because it's almost like eh, it almost feels like you're sexualizing yourself, but it's the result of all of the influences that we don't really have control over.
Yeah, for sure. And I only just learned about the word objectification, I think
Oh.
either the beginning of this year or last year, because
Mhm.
it's like I knew what it was, but I never knew there was like a word for it. So
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, we definitely were objectifying ourselves and only seeing ourselves as a body. And it's like,
Mhm.
we're so young. And
So
so
young.
it's like, of course, then healing your body image, even just improving your sex life, it's going to take time because you've been thinking these things for years, probably decades.
Mhm.
And so it's like, give yourself some grace, but know that
Yeah.
your body is not the problem. It is not something you need to fix or change. You're allowed to enjoy sex right now. You're allowed to feel pleasure. You're allowed to feel beautiful without changing your body. But moving on to the last main question I have for you is in one of your Instagram reels, you mentioned how criticizing your body is scientifically proven to decrease your enjoyment from sex. Can
Mhm.
you explain why this happens?
Sure. So when you criticize yourself, you are lowering your self esteem, obviously, but the way that we actually can measure it is in stress and in cortisol levels. And so if you are constantly criticizing yourself, we all know what that feels like. And it is a constant stress. It is constantly any reflection you pass is upsetting. Anytime you're going to like go to the bathroom and wash your hands, it could be upsetting. And that's something that you carry with you, those self criticisms. And it also, again, is you telling yourself that you're not worth it. You're not worthy. You are not capable, whatever it is. And those are all contributing to stress. And stress is the biggest inhibitor of sexuality and sexual desire. So, similar to the way that like exhaustion works, it kind of is hand in hand. If you are so stressed, someone trying to initiate sex with you is like, are you fucking nuts? Get away from me. And there's also something called the stress response cycle. So when you start to feel a stress response, like you were saying, like fight, flight, or freeze, we have to go through the entire cycle for it to actually resolve, which means we have to there's a great doctor, her name's Emily Nagoski. She wrote a book. Oh my God, I'm blanking on the name, but if you look up Emily Nagoski, you'll find her, and she's amazing. She has some great books, and in one of them, oh, it's called Come As You Are. There it is. And in that one, she talks about the stress response cycle a lot, and she uses an analogy of being chased by a lion, which the reason she uses that analogy is because this is where our stress responses come from. Like it's a biological thing that's happening, and it's been ingrained in us since our species has existed. So the analogy she uses is being chased by a lion. So if you're being chased by a lion and you're having all of this stress and it's building up and it's building up, you have to, and then let's say the lion gets really close to you and you freeze, and then the lion goes away. And then you have to see that lion approach you, see that lion walk away. You have to cry and freak out because what the hell happened, and release all of that stress from your body in whatever way you possibly can. And then come to a place where seeing yourself, you're safe again. That's the full stress response cycle. So you have to recognize the issue. You're going to react the way you're going to react. And then you're going to like react to the reaction essentially. Once you realize that you can de-stress and let it go is when you've actually completed the stress response cycle. So it's important that if you are experiencing stress in general, or you're experiencing self-criticism, to find ways to reduce it, because that cycle is hard to do and it's hard to maintain. And like living your life constantly completing that cycle is exhausting. It's exhausting. So even like the way that people talk about relieving stress is the way that it's, every time I hear this, I'm like, oh God, again, but it's true. Meditating, exercising, getting outside in nature is really helpful. Sometimes sometimes just sitting outside. We have a lot of birds in my neighborhood. For some reason in our backyard this year, it literally sounds like the Rainforest Cafe. There's birds everywhere. It's beautiful, but it's like kind of funny. And just sitting out there and setting like a 10-minute timer that is for me to do nothing, to set aside time to do nothing and think about nothing and just listen to the birds and just have no one bother me is like so helpful. There's even people who do things like, there's like the 5 a.m. club where people will wake up before the rest of their house and give themselves time to just be by themselves and decompress and like have their coffee. Maybe they'll read or journal. Journaling is extremely helpful. And you can even find journal prompts. I'm actually putting a bunch on my Instagram in my subscriptions category. So if anyone is feeling like they want to do some journal prompts, I will be having them up there. But journal prompts are really helpful because a lot of the time you can open up a journal and be like, I don't know what to say. What is this for? And it feels a little bit like Dear Diary, and it feels silly. But if someone's asking you a question and they're saying, what about your day made you feel like you couldn't have peace in this day? Writing something like that out is a way to complete that stress response cycle. So anyway, back to your original question, self-criticism contributes to that stress cycle. So even if you are saying something like, I need to lose some weight and that will help me feel better about my sex life, or I need to be more exciting in the bedroom and I'm not good at that, and so I need to do this, and this. you might think that you're helping, even when people do things like they push themselves to work out every single day, and you're bullying yourself and saying, you're never going to fit into this dress if you're not getting up. So get up, or just forcing yourself. No, don't do that, because you're increasing the stress in your body, which is contributing to everything else not falling into place. You're going to need to continuously complete this stress cycle. You're going to wear yourself out, and it's not going to work. It's just not. It's the same way that, like, every time you diet, there's a 1/4 chance that it will actually stick. It's not going to happen. It's just like, I think there are people who function in different ways, and there are different ways that they can perceive information that really lets it sink in. For me, it's always going to be the information. Give me like the facts, show me that this was researched, and I am so much more likely to believe it. And I am telling you, the sources are listed on that reel somewhere. There is research to show that criticizing yourself does not work. If you operate from a place of, I am going to go for a walk because it's beautiful outside and I feel so great when I do that, and it gives my mind a way to like rest and decompress, that will be a habit that you keep. But if you do it because you're like, I need to fit into this dress by a certain day, which we all do at some point. But if you do that, you're bullying yourself, which, why are we doing that? We're not doing that. We're stopping the bullying ourselves. And it's not going to be a habit that you stick to, because it's going to be one that grew out of such negativity and self-criticism and was so stressful to maintain. Why would you maintain something that from the start gave you stress? So operate from a place of love and care for yourself, and love and care for your partner, and it'll actually make habits that stick.
Fun fact for you, because you mentioned one, that you like the facts, but
Yeah.
two, that you like to listen to the birds. From my understanding, listening to birds sing activates your parasympathetic nervous system, because historically birds only sing when they feel safe.
Oh my
And it
God.
sends like a signal of safety to our body. So it makes sense that you feel really good when you do that.
I have to tell my dad this, because my dad is obsessed with the birds. He loves them. He has like bird feeders all over the place. I have to tell him. He's going to love that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I would guess. I mean, obviously there are other things in life, but he's maybe a pretty stress-free guy if he's listening to
Oh,
birds all day.
he's the most stressed out person that I know, but it makes
Oh,
sense that but that's what he likes, because I'm sure it's
yeah.
like the one moment in his day where he's like, oh God.
Yeah, it helps him feel good, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing I was thinking about was just like every time you go to say something like harsh or critical about yourself, it's like I just picture like a lion coming at me now.
Mhm. Yeah,
Or maybe
exactly.
thinking about like, don't add extra stress by thinking about this, but I think like your high school bully, like picture them saying it to you. And it's like,
Mhm.
would you want them saying it to you? No. So
Right.
why are you saying it to yourself?
Exactly. If you won't accept that behavior and that treatment from a stranger, certainly don't do it to yourself. Don't do it
Ex-
to yourself.
exactly. So I have two questions that I ask all of my guests.
Okay.
And the first one is, what do you wish you could go back and tell younger Alyssa?
Oh man. I think I would tell my younger self that that my value is so much more than what I look like. It's so much more. And that was such a tough thing. It's always going to be a tough thing for us to learn, especially for women, because we are constantly told that that is our value. And we have been told that since like the beginning of time. And so we are unraveling generations of being told that our body is our value. So it is an extremely radical and hard thing to do, to work on that, which is why I encourage everybody to. And I would tell younger Alyssa that it's the least interesting thing about you is the way you look. You have so much more to offer the world, so much more. And it is just simply not the body that you live in.
I love that so much. The second question is, what advice would you give to someone just starting out to try and love their body?
Hmm, okay, I have a few things. The body or the mirror exercise is one. But if that feels scary to you, One of the things that I also think makes people feel very stressed about the way that they look is when they buy clothes that don't fit them, or they have old clothes that they used to fit into in a different phase of life, and now they're in a new phase of life and that they don't fit them anymore. There's no moral value tied to that. You're still a wonderful, great person. You just need different clothes, and that's okay. Once you start stripping away the value from it and the emotion from it, and it's just like you simply need new clothes, I would encourage you to donate all of those clothes to wherever is local to you and get yourself something nice. Get yourself something nice that fits. And also, and I know that sometimes that can be scary because now you're going to like search for a different size, and that can be stressful, and shopping in general can be really stressful, especially when you don't feel great in your skin. But once you find something that feels really good and looks really good on you, I feel like you walk through the world in a different way. You see yourself in a different way. Even if it's actually buying new makeup, doing stuff like that, like treat yourself to something that makes you feel really good. Um, and I think that will take you a lot of the way. And just give yourself grace and forgiveness, because this is a process. It'll be a process forever. I have bad days all the time, all the time. And oh, one of the bigger things too, everything you see on social media is not real. Like, I can't emphasize that enough. Even like like I use filters on some of my videos. I'm really trying to stop, but it's an insecurity of mine. Every time I take one without one, I'm like, it just doesn't look as good. I wish I never started, but unfortunately, that's where I'm at. I'm working on it. But those will at least be labeled, like it'll say using effect. When you
Mhm.
see someone on Instagram that posted a picture and it looks perfect, they edited it. They just did. And even if they didn't edit it that much, the way somebody looks in a picture versus the way that they look in real life is so different. So comparison is the root of all evil. Don't do it, because it's not even real. And it will never, like, the biggest example of this to me is the way that the Kardashians operate, because they've been caught photoshopping. They constantly say that they've never gotten work done, which we know is a blatant lie. Like, psycho, like, what are you talking about? And they continue to go about this world like they're setting a good example for people. And that's just not the reality of the case. And so really, like, really looking at the people that you surround yourself with. Like, I've gone through the people that I follow a million times, and I'll unfollow anybody that I just like, I either don't know or I think contributes to me feeling badly about myself, because I don't want to do the comparison, especially because I know none of it's real. So give yourself grace, know that it's going to be an ongoing process, but you're so worth the energy, and your whole life like opens up and changes in such a beautiful way that I can't even like verbalize, because there's like a lightness around just not caring anymore. And it's a privilege to feel that way. It's the result of a lot of work and energy. Um, but it's very worth the work. It's worth it to explore your sexuality. It's worth it to take classes if you want to on sex or sexuality and prioritize that. And it's extremely worth it to invest in any way you can, time, energy, money, into just unraveling any of that body image stuff too.
Such good advice. I
Thanks.
was thinking, because you said it's like the people online, like you're judging yourself against a filter. But
Yeah,
nowadays, even in real life, you're judging yourself possibly against fake teeth, Botox, fake
correct.
freckles, fake eyelashes, fake eyebrows. It's like there are so many things. And so it's like you said, comparison is the thief of joy. It's the thief of, I
Mm-hmm.
like to say, positive body image.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess it's, yeah, again, like you said, giving yourself grace and just knowing you don't have to look like the Kardashians.
Yeah. And you are a valuable, wonderful person, regardless of what you look like. And what you look like I said, is the least interesting thing about you, I promise.
So amazing. Thank you so much for
Thank you for having me.
all of this, everything you just shared. I know this topic is very uncomfortable for so many. I know my mom, if she hears this episode, she's gonna be like, "You talked about sex?"
She's gonna
I
be like
know.
listening through her eyes, like, what is happening? Yeah.
But so thank you for making it feel more comfortable to have this conversation, to have a conversation about it so that others can feel less alone, feel less crazy, and know that there are things they can do to improve their sex life. They don't have to feel uncomfortable in their body and have that impact their sex life and all of those things. So Thank you so much for all of your time and everything you shared. How can someone get in touch with you, work with you, find you, be
You
friends
can
with you?
you can find me on Instagram. I'm on TikTok too, but TikTok hates me. They hate everything I say. So now I'm there, but they don't love me. But on everything, I'm at Alyssa Ljub, LJUB. Actually, ALYSSA LJUB. And if you ever wanted to work with me one-on-one for coaching, you can send me an email to alyssalube@gmail.com and I can set that up for you too. I have the podcast, Alyssa Explains It All. And if you ever have suggestions of things you want to hear or people you want to have on, perhaps Leah, and then let me know. And I'm always welcome to suggestions on my Instagram too. If you subscribe, I'm gonna have a lot of like worksheets and fun stuff on there too, which is like a lower cost option. And I think that's it.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. I will definitely link everything also in the show notes. So it's just scroll down right now and you will find it and just tap the button and you can find all the ways that you can work with Alyssa and hear more of the goodness that she shares on her podcast and all of the things. So thank you so much. I don't feel like I can say it enough. So thank you. And just remember that your body is not the problem.
Period.